Okay, finally, I got this to work. Hopefully, you all get to see it. I decided to let you all in on the experience of going to the tax sale and what happens. Uh, it's an experience I wish I would have shared prior to um, now, because you could have been there. I could have gone live and you could have been there while the bidding was going on. But it's no different than any auction, really. I will say this: the houses, the properties, were going for 3 to 4 times. Now I'm talking 3 to 4 times as much as they normally would. So if you went to the tax sale with $20,000 thinking you would get two properties like you would have in the past, you pretty much didn't get anything. Not with $20,000 too much. Some people got lucky and got some kind of rundown property or a piece of land. I'll get to that in a minute. That was a really big shocker there. But we had pages upon pages of properties listed like this. And if you notice, there are a ton of properties in each column, lots of columns. Pages upon pages of this here. Just pages upon pages of the tax sale here. Just this is only one list, by the way. We had two different lists. So we went to one in Independence, Missouri. We went to one in Kansas City, Missouri. And they were weeks after each other. They were every day. It was grueling. After the first day, I had to take a pillow with me for my chair because that was such a long time sitting and being there in the heat and the sun. Bless God, we were able to get a seat with covering. So even on the day that it rained, we were covered. It was great. We would get there about 6:30 in the morning because we wanted a spot. The sale didn't start until 10 a.m. every day, but we would get there about between anywhere from 6:30 to 7 and set up our spot, chill, eat our breakfast, and just do any additional research that we needed to do. Now, that's a whole big deal there. There were so many properties this time because last year with COVID, they didn't have the tax sales. You had a really long list, but also because you had a longer list and the same amount of time to research, a lot of people didn't get their research fully done. So people were at the sale still trying to do research. This made for a bad situation because there's a confirmation you really have to do, which is you look at the list, right? And you'll see the property. You look it up on the county website and you look it up on the city website. And if you see on those maps that both of them jive, they both have properties actually outlined on the geographical map. Then you look at the information. If it says there is a value for the land, a value for the improvement, meaning there is a building there, then you can pretty much trust there's a building there, but you need to confirm it and go out to it and drive, right? And see that what you actually see matches any pictures that they have online. Sometimes they actually have photographs, but you might want to make sure that the way the land is situated and where the building is situated, that it matches what you're optically, visually looking at. So there were people who they would leave at lunchtime, go look and drive around at a couple of properties that were coming up somewhere on the list in the next page or two that they wanted to see. And if it didn't get to that page until the next day, then they already had the information. But then most of us would leave. And there was a lot of people at the tax sales both. And so you would leave after that at the end of the day, and you spend all day there, then you drive and go look at more properties in the evening before the sun went down, and then be back the next morning. So it was grueling. One of the things about us is that, you know, everybody may not have this situation, but I had to take vacation time away from work, you know, to do this. And so we blocked away. We blocked off 3 weeks of time, and that was going to deplete every bit of time I had saved up and worked hard to have. But I carried over time from last year, so thank God I had the job that would do that. That I could carry over some vacation time. Um, I I knew that I would cut that time short once we run out of money, right? Once we run out of money. So I was able to give advice to new people who expressed the need for information, had questions, and a couple of pieces of advice that I gave them, I actually fell into the trap. So my husband and I, Pastor Jackson and I, were there in the beginning together, but um, through another circumstance of him going and praying for a family member, he actually got exposed to COVID. He didn't know that that was the sickness they had. He was told something else. And so the nurse who was there at the time, after he visited and with the person that was sick and prayed for them, touched them, held them, whatever, then he spoke to the nurse, and the nurse confirmed, oh, they definitely have COVID and they are dying of COVID. This was, I think, maybe 2 days before the person actually died. And so Pastor Jackson was not able to continue the event, the tax sale with me. Made for a very difficult time for me in being able to research the properties and get the right information and so forth. So he began to do his part. Now I will jump to the end of that and say that he never tested positive. He had 2 tests at the beginning and at the end of his 2-week stay away from home. And so I thank God for that. But he was able, because he was strengthened and he was not sick, he was able to do some research. He got in the car, drove around some of the properties and we sent pictures of the list and our notes and so forth to each other and tried to update our list. But I still got caught not following some of my own advice. So 3 things that I had advised people of that were new. I said, if you didn't do your research, don't bid on it. It's going to sound good and it's going to sound like maybe you can get it for really low. If you see that it's at $500, $600 and nobody's bidding and you jump in and bid on that and you didn't do any research, you're probably going to get burned on that one. So I didn't fall in that trap, but the next trap I did fall into, and I told them, if you have researched something and it appears that not many people are bidding on it, maybe one other person's bidding on it or something, or it seems like you're getting it awful good at an awful good price, it's like unbelievable, then you probably better be leery. And so what you do is you listen for people around you, listen for people chiming in, saying things, because in the background, everybody's going to be talking. They're saying, that's a piece of land, or there's no property there. Why are they bidding on that? That's a piece of property by the highway that's nothing, or there's nothing there but a driveway. I drove by there and looked at it. Listen for these things, because even though you're bidding on it, you have the opportunity to say, oh, nope, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bid on that, and don't give them your money. That's the one I fell prey to. And the last piece of advice that I told people was, if you set an amount, and say, this is what I want to go to on this property, and then you set a threshold and say, if I haven't gotten anything by the time we get to this one, maybe you have 5 properties, right, that you want to look at. If you get to the 4th property on the list and you didn't get the first 3, maybe you want to go a little more on the 4th one. You got to know what your threshold is. But whatever that is, don't let people drive you up further, because your numbers on what you're willing to spend should be based on what you know you can spend afterwards on the taxes that'll come up due on the property, because what you're paying, even though you're buying it for past due taxes, it's not the present taxes. And so your amount that you're willing to spend on it is also based on what you're going to have left to put into it to fix it up and to sell it or get it ready to rent, whatever you're going to do with it, right? So don't let the hype and the excitement drive you up beyond what you want to pay. And so I think in one case I came pretty close to breaking that rule for myself, or I did break it. It didn't go extreme, but I feel like I broke that rule for myself. So we had two situations. One was where I broke both of those rules in one situation. And so what that was is there was a property that I had researched as much as I could research it, but I had not driven by it. I didn't do that final confirmation. And Pastor Jackson was there at the time at this one. And what he looked at on the map at that time, like double, because we would like try to reassure ourselves that we're bidding on the right thing. And so when he did that, he saw what looked to be a good property. And there weren't many people bidding on it. And I decided we're going to bid. And I said, I'm going to bid on it. He said, okay, let's bid on it. He said, you sure? I said, yeah, let's go for it. So we bid, and we ended up spending $19,000 on that property and got it. Now, ordinarily, that's in our range. But for a property that was a 2-bedroom, not quite 19 is what we would spend. We wouldn't normally spend 19. So we went immediately after the tax sale on that day, drove out to look at it. It was a pretty decent property. Totally trashed outside of it, probably trashed inside of it, but a very salvageable property. The thing that's going to be new to us on that property, you can probably hear my family just came home, but the thing that's going to be new to us on that property is that there is a no sewer. It's on a different system in the ground. And so I'll update you as to how that's going to go. That's new for us. We've never worked with that. Don't know how much that's going to cost us if the system is not working. We know there's a lot to do on the property from the outside, probably going to be a lot inside. And I'm hoping that there's no backup of the sewage containment that we'll have to clean up. Anyway, we saw somebody living on the property in a trailer. So we're going to have to deal with that too. We'll cross that bridge. I'm going to let you in on all of it. And the reason I'm doing this up front is because I want you to know how this works. You have to take the good with the bad. And so the bad for us last time we did a tax sale was that we bought a property and somebody set it on fire twice. We had bought another property. Somebody had robbed it. After we began to work on it, they took out the furnace and were coming back for the water heater. Or no, they took out the water, one of the two. They took out the furnace, I think, and come back for the water heater. And we knew they were coming back for the other part because they had already taken it and set it up to be where they could just come get it. And they must have had keys because there was no break-in. So we had to work around those things. We ended up coming out on top. Even with all the bad things that happened, we came out on top. But it's easy to tell you about that now that we've gone through it. So at this time, I wanted to take you through it as we go through it. Of course, it's my prayer we come out on top. But I think in order to tell someone, hey, this is how you can make money investing in property, you really got to share every detail so that they're not surprised. I can make you more equipped than I was or than we were by giving you all the real detail, because then you can evaluate it and say, hey, this is how I am going to not fall into these traps. This is how I'm going to double up on the things that did work. You see? So one of the things I want to share with you is somebody mentioned to us, wow, how do you guys have all this money to invest? So here's what we did and what we do. We have credit cards that we wait until they give us an offer and say 0% interest for 12 months, for 18 months, 0% interest on your charges or on a balance transfer. So then when we get that, we'll take $10,000 off. We write a $10,000 check to ourselves, put it in the bank. And then we spend that 18 months making payments back. We just make these payments back. So we did that over a 2-year period until we were able to save like $27,000. Now this money's in the bank and it's our money. We never paid interest on it. But we don't have maybe the willpower or whatever you might want to call it to just chunk this money away in a savings and let it sit there. We'll find a use for it because we have business, we have ministry, and something will always come up that we can improve and do so the money doesn't stay. So this way we have found really works for us. We put it there and somehow it stays there when we do it in this process. So it works for us. You do what works for you to raise capital to go to the tax sale, right? So that's what we did there. And then so now we have this $19,000 property. It won't be awarded to us yet. It's kind of like in limbo now. And so you can only pay them in cash or in cashier's checks. So we had cashier's checks. Since the cashier's checks, hi honey, I'm doing a video right now.
Actually, a video with you?
Mm-hmm. So, and I'm live. So thank you. And so if you pay them more than what the property was, so if you have a $20,000, or in our case, more cashier's checks than what the cost was. It was $19,000. We didn't have just $19,000 in cashier's checks, so we had to give them more. They take the extra and put it on the books. And when they put it on the books, it means that I think we gave them 4 $5,000 cashier's checks. So we had $3,000. Or how did we end up with 3,000? 19. Oh, I know how. Anyway, we ended up with like $6,000 on the books or so. And so that sits on the books until your next bid. And if you never bid anything else, if you never get anything else, then they send you a check back later. And, so we're waiting on a check in the mail. But we did end up bidding one more time. And I was the one bidding. And my husband was not able to be there. Pastor Jackson wasn't there. And so the thing is for this one, I didn't have a rule about it. It's just something I'm going to add a rule about. I'm going to figure this one out, how not to fall in this trap again. But what happened was the 2 nights before, my daughter and I had drove around to all these properties. Maybe 3 nights before. We had been trying to get ready for this one particular page that had a lot on it that we thought we would be interested in. Well, there was a pattern here. This whole tax sale, the whole 2 weeks, up to this point, it had been almost 2 weeks. The whole 2 weeks, there was a pattern in that anything that seemed to be worth something, they skipped over. And anything that was land or burned, torn down, or torn up, or dilapidated, blighted, all of those properties they were auctioning them, and people weren't doing their research. There was so many new people out there. I mean, just so many. My heart was breaking for some of these people who were buying properties that I had noted there was nothing there, or it was a piece of land, or it was a burned up house, and they were paying like $20,000 and $30,000 for these property. One lady paid what was it, $76,000 for a house that had been completely demolished. But if you look at it on the computer, it looks like it's there. She said, I Googled it. And she told me the next day that this had happened. And I told her, I said, did you do your research? I said, you remember I told you have to do your research on it. She said, well, I didn't do any research on it. It's just I was standing there and people started bidding on it. So I decided to look it up. And I was like, wow, this is like a $300,000 property. I'm going to bid on it. So I did. And there were other people bidding against me too. I said, but I'm just saying, I don't know what you do now. I don't know what you should do now. Um, but you're going to have to talk to them at your hearing or something like this. So that was the pattern I was noticing. So when it got to this page that me and my daughter had driven around and looked at, they skipped over most of them and they got to one that they actually called. And I was like, wow, I'm going to jump into the bid at a certain point if it stops. And that bid just took off. I mean, that bid was probably 3 or 4 times what I would have thought it was going to go for. Now, it was way past what I would have bid on it, but even what I thought it would have gone for was much past that. So I didn't jump in on that one. But the very next one I had listed, when they got to it, they auctioned that one. And I said, this time I'm going to jump in. I'm going to jump in early. So I did. I ended up getting that property for $4,000. And right when they said sold to me, and I'm thinking, are you serious? Nobody else jumped in? 4,000, something is wrong. At that point, my feet were in motion to go up to the payment table, but I should have. What I did was I listened. I remember listening, and I didn't see any of the normal people I would see saying something to me. I didn't hear anyone saying anything. I didn't have something to caution me. So when I went to the table, because I already had that apprehension about the dollar amount, I told the lady at the counter, I said, I feel like I've done something wrong. The problem was when I said that, I was handing her my bidder's number. And so it goes like this. I feel like I've done something wrong. She took that number and they said, cha-ching, da-da-da-da-da. And she handed me a piece of paper. She said, oh, you haven't done anything wrong. You got you a property. And I'm like, man, I shouldn't have handed her the bidder's number. I forgot that I had money on the books. They're not expecting me to hand them money. I was thinking I'm going to hold my money for a minute and talk to her and probably pull out of this, because I'm thinking something's wrong, right? But it didn't happen. So we ended up with this other property. And we go by and look at it to verify what we see on the paper. And it turns out that it was a bad deal. It turns out that what we originally saw as a property, a house, and the land, and it matched the map. It matched the pictures. Everything we saw matched. It turns out, though, that if you do some overlaying on the maps, which we didn't even know to do at that time, that they're only selling the land part, not that house that was in the picture, not the way it even looks on the map. So I went back and I talked to someone in the tax office, and they said, no, there's a property there. And they looked it up. I said, no, that's exactly everything we saw too. I said, but we are finding from other people out here today now that they're saying, no, there's no property there. I said, so something, we're getting leery about this. And we drove by and it looks like the picture. And you're right. That's what you're looking at it. And it's saying there's a property there. We looked at it as a property there, but she said, well, there's one other thing we can do. She said, hold on. And she said, I'm going to overlay this with the 2021 mapping. And I'm thinking to myself, aren't we looking at 2021? Because I saw a date on the picture. But she overlays it with something else. And she says, nope, you're right. This is a piece of land. She said, when you go to your hearing, tell the judge everything you told me and everything that happened. And I'm going to give you a printout. So that's where we are on that one. So it's, it's a good and bad that you have to take with this. So what are we going to do? We are going to, and I almost think, what do we spend? Actually, I think I spent more than $4,000 on that one. As a matter of fact, that's not the one we spent $4,000 on. We spent, let's see, $19,000 on one, and I have to look up the amount we spent on this one. Next time I do this video, I'm going to have the exact dollar amounts for you. And it should be in my head, but it's not. And so I'm going to get those numbers for you, because when we go to our hearing, they're going to hold a hearing in a few months that will confirm the properties to us, or that will pay us our money back and give the property back to the owner, or what have you. And so during that time, I will make sure you have the exact numbers, the values. So that's where we are right now. I am, even with the mistakes that have happened, I am looking for victory in being able to make money. We're going to take what we've done and we're going to turn it around and make money. There's no way that we're going to get this far and then decide, oh man, I can't do anything with this, or I done messed up, or we don't spend too much money. No, we're not past what our goals was for what we wanted to spend. We have some money left to be able to work the properties out, work them up, get them on the market, whatever we're going to do. And so we're going to figure it out. Okay, we're going to figure it out. And I'll let you in more on it with even pictures next time. Don't want to give out any pictures now because, again, we don't own these properties yet. They haven't been confirmed to us. Somebody's living at one. We just don't want to do that. So we will give you more information the next time we get on and let you know how our adventure, it's a venture, business venture, but how our adventure is going. Thank you for walking this out with us. And I hope that this will be so helpful to you when you get ready to invest at a tax sale. Thank you.